says praise black women, hug black women, defend black women, support black women, and love black women.
Amen. Amen. I love that, man. That's what we got to.
Actually designed this shirt
Huh?
and had it made. Actually designed this shirt and had it made.
Oh yeah. So you selling them?
Yeah. Now I'm not selling them, but I gave it to I gave it to a friend. I was like, hey, why don't you sell these shirts?
Okay.
So she's made a few bucks off of 'em.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know me. I definitely support. Shout out to Sean Williams jumping in on Facebook says what surprised me is the move isn't more so, but what was given up in terms of draft picks. Matt Stafford going to Los Angeles. What's your thoughts on this?
Uh what I can say for this is definitely a short-sighted upgrade for the Los Angeles Rams. As far as the
Okay.
I'll say basically, of course, the two draft picks that helps the Lions. Makes Goff the bridge quarterback, basically, to
Mm.
whoever they're going to pick next. And for the Rams, they're going to be in salary cap hell in about 2 years because you got to think they're paying Donald, they're paying
Mhm.
Ramsey, they're paying Goff, they're paying. I mean, no, I'm saying Donald, Ramsey, Cup. They're paying Robert Woods. I mean, they've got a lot of people they're paying. They
Mhm.
can't keep paying these guys astronomical salaries, especially you're paying Donald and Ramsey to be the best as the best players at their respective positions in the game. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely interesting when you really look at it. You think about these moves here, man, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting this one. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't expecting this one. I'm surprised Detroit gave up on Matt Stafford. And aren't they getting a new
I'm
coach?
not. He actually asked for it. I
Okay, I
think he
must.
asked for
All right, I may
for
have missed
to
that.
kind of partner ways.
Yeah, all right. So it
They
makes
are
sense.
getting a new coach. That's the guy that's talked about biting the kneecaps in
That's
his
right. Yeah,
press
we.
conference. That
Yeah.
yeah.
Shout out to Tarika. She talked about it. But to see Jared Goff, what happened? Like I said, this was a guy I said at the top of the program. This was a guy who 2 years ago around this time we was talking about him playing in the biggest game of his life, playing in the Super Bowl. He was look like maybe not an MVP candidate, but he was definitely they was an offensive machine. What happened to that team? And what happened to him?
Um, I'll say this: they lost some pieces. One, secondly, Goff didn't keep progressing as maybe Sean McVay thought he would. And
Mm-hmm.
then this year, of course, he got the injury bug. So a combination of all three of those things, and then also like Brian saying in the comments,
Yep.
McVay said there was a QB competition, and as soon as he said that, yeah, it was definitely over for Goff at that point. You knew that if they got a good offer or if Snead felt like it was the best quarterback available for them, he was
Mm-hmm.
going to make the move to get rid of Goff at all at any chance possible.
So did the fact that he text, you remember that text message that went out in the group chat years ago?
Trying to think
He
which
said
one that
something
was.
about the coach's lady. Do you think that had anything to do with
Oh,
it?
no, that didn't have anything to do with. They already. I mean, they're actually cool. Both the coach and the quarterback actually were good friends.
Okay.
So that's what was even more interesting. They're nearly the same age,
Right, right.
to be honest.
There's
So
just certain
yeah.
things you just don't
So
say though. You certain lines you don't cross.
well, Derek Fisher crossed that line a few times in his career, and he's still doing his thing. So I guess maybe it's just the luck of the Irish or whatever it may be to keep
Uh,
him going.
I'm glad. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been wanting to talk to somebody about this. Did you see? Did you check out the latest episode of All Smoke?
I have not checked it out yet, but I'll be looking for it, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be entertained.
All right, I won't ruin it for you there. But yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about just because of what you just said. It comes up at the very end of the show. So, but just looking at this deal, man, I'm like, this is very interesting. Uh, Is Matt Stafford the answer? You said short term for I don't want to say, but yeah, short term cap drama, right? Do you think they make this move because they feel Stafford can get them over the hump, especially considering that defense is not heading to its prime; it's in its prime. Brian ain't lying is saying yes. Do you think this is the case? Is this like win or bust within these next 2 years?
Definitely. It
Okay.
definitely is win or bust. But one thing that nobody's talking about is, they lost their defensive coordinator to the Chargers. So
Mm-hmm.
that defense is not necessarily going to be the same defense where you move Jalen Ramsey all around everywhere like he did. I mean, honestly, if anyone paid attention to Stokely's defense this year, he moved Jalen Ramsey. He was at outside linebacker sometimes. He was at slot. He was at safety, corner on either side. He was blitzing the quarterback. He was pretty much everywhere. So that defense probably will not look the same next year, even though they are very talented. So it ought to be interesting to see if they can keep that same level up with a different defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Um. So, do he have better weapons in your opinion?
Yes, he has. In terms of Matt Stafford, Matt Stafford definitely has better weapons now
Hmm.
than what he had in Detroit. I can definitely say that he has a Woods and Cup are one of the most underrated duos at wide receiver that people don't talk about. And then you
Hmm.
got Cam Akers that's coming into his own as a running back. It's shown by the finish of the season that he had, including the playoffs.
Okay. So are you predicting them to win the division next year? I know that's your division rivalry. Do you think your 49ers are a piece away? You think when Jimmy G, like, what do you think? Does this move scare
Well, they
you?
haven't beat the this move definitely is it's going to send shockwaves to the NFC West for sure.
Hmm.
But one thing is, the Rams haven't beat the 49ers in five straight tries. So
That's
maybe this will
crazy.
get them that win that they're looking for. But
Mike.
I will say that look around and let's see what things happen,
Uh-huh.
this off season first, because it's not necessarily over. There could be one more additional quarterback added to the NFC West, and particularly it could be the 49ers adding another quarterback. We
Are
don't
you
know.
are,
We'll
you-
see
are
what
you are you are
happens.
you talking who I think you talking? Is are you talking to
Yes, I
Sean?
am, because
Put it in
actually
the
I was
air, man.
listening.
Put it for
I'm
speak into
Yeah, I am. I
existence.
was looking to I was listening to Michael Vick actually talk, and he was saying the people around Deshaun Watson think he should come to San Francisco.
Mm,
That's where they think he should go. Now, of
mm-hmm.
course, it's his decision, but if he goes to San Francisco, of course, I've seen a trade that was put up on ESPN that involved the 49ers, the Jets, and the Texans, where the Texans got Sam Darnold. Jimmy G went to New York, and Deshaun Watson went to the 49ers. Of course, a couple picks given up, but it's not like giving up the farm for Deshaun Watson, which a lot of people think they're going to have to give up the farm, or teams are going to have to give up the farm. But I'm betting, two first round picks is about as steep as it's going to go, probably, plus a player, and maybe a late round pick. But I don't think anybody's getting three first round picks out of, I don't think Houston's getting three first round picks. That's not going to happen. And I think they're living in denial, thinking that Deshaun Watson is going to play another down for the Houston Texans.
Okay. Um. Now let me ask you. I'm gonna ask you this question. This coming from Jonathan Williams on Facebook. Any opinion on? Well, he brought up your 49ers, but on who they or the coach should land.
As far as the Colts, well, Tarika actually brought up, she brought up the Colts making a run for Deshaun Watson.
Mhm.
What I mentioned to her is, though, they did make a trade for DeForest Buckner last year and gave the 49ers up a first round pick. So I don't know necessarily if that be the move they want to make and kind of start gutting, everything, and, trading first round picks and all those type of things. But that would be something they need to think about, because they currently don't have an answer at quarterback. right now. As far as the 49ers, you have that option. Jerry Jones hasn't necessarily been quite, I should say, quite for wanting to pay Dak Prescott. So you could look at that way too. There's
Mhm.
plenty of different options that you can look at out there. There's another one in Matt Ryan. That would take a lot of finagling to happen because his deal is quite huge. Um, there's just a lot of different things the 49ers could potentially do. However, it will take a little bit of finagling with the salary cap and, of course, some picks to give up. But it's just a matter of, do they feel they're close to winning the Super Bowl with
Yeah.
that move?
Now, I think personally, I think the price of Deshaun just went up with this trade,
Oh, it did.
right? If I'm looking and I'm thinking about getting him, I may be like, God dang it, I should have jumped sooner because you're talking a third round pick and 2 first round picks. You can't tell me anything less is better because this is Deshaun Watson we're talking about. Plus, not to mention, they traded for another quarterback who is a NFC champion. No matter which way you look at it, no matter how you feel about it, there's no way in the world you could tell me you gonna make a trade deal less. And if it's done, that goes to show you the disrespect and the value put towards black quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know necessarily if it'll show disrespect towards Deshaun Watson, but the one
Okay.
thing is the Houston Texans have painted into a corner. You've got a quarterback that doesn't want to play for you. You've got a quarterback that's got a no trade clause in his contract.
hmm
So with those two things, eventually you might have to just
That's a
accept
good point. You
what
did
another team
break the
gives
no
you.
trade clause. Yep.
So if that's the point, and they accept they have to come to the point where they have to accept what a team gives them, it could potentially mean maybe just 2 first round picks and something else thrown into it. But it's probably going to be a quarterback that goes back the other way. They got to have another quarterback going the other way. I don't see them drafting a quarterback unless they make some trade with Jacksonville and Jacksonville decides to give them 1st round pick, which I don't think that'll happen either. So
Yeah, man. This is the fun part about the NFL trades when trades happen. Like I said, I appreciate you hopping on to talk about it, man. You always welcome here on the Main Event Status Sports Show. Um, Looking at this off season moving forward, any surprises you think could happen? Any I don't want to use the word hot takes, but anything you see that could happen that maybe everybody else isn't seeing?
well, I don't know if everybody else sees this, but I definitely see JJ Watt leaving, and
Hmm.
he's going somewhere. I don't think he's going to be in Houston next year either. Um, far as surprises, you could potentially see the 49ers draft offensive lineman first this year, depending on what happens with Trent Williams.
And what number do
So
they
you
have?
could see that happen. I am not sure what number they have this year. I think they're right outside the top 10, to be honest. But I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a offensive lineman, especially depending upon the situation with Trent Williams this offseason, if he decides to sign back or not, because he's trying to hit the open market.
Yeah.
Um, as far as Buffalo, they could potentially make more moves too. They could add another tight end potentially or wide receiver. And a guy to watch in the draft that I've seen him kind of up and down the draft board is that is Kyle Pitts from
Okay.
the tight end from Florida. He can play
Hmm.
tight end, but he also has skills enough to play wide receiver. So that's a guy to watch going up and down the draft potentially.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, man. Um, I'm hoping my Ravens make a move. I know there's talks about the wide receiver position. There was comments that John Harbaugh made that the fans didn't like too much. You know how it is when we understand sports. It's John being John, and he said,
Right.
don't come here. Basically, don't come here worry about your numbers. Come here worry about winning. And they think that may turn some people off, but I do think for the first time in Ravens history, we do have a quarterback that people would love to play with. You know, we all know
Well,
the Terrell Owens deal. we had the Ravens had traded for him, and he didn't want to play with Kyle Bowler. Um, we've had people come here because
oh
they
boy.
wanted to play. You heard Jacoby Jones was told. I don't know if you heard, but I believe one Vontae Leach told him, "Man, you better come." You know, but it was more about the team and not necessarily wanting to play with Joe Flacco. I do believe you have a quarterback in Lamar Jackson that maybe they might not be huge fans of the way the offense is being played, but looking at the way his teammates ride for him and how he rides for his teammates, I think he's a quarterback that people want to play with. What do you think?
I think Lamar. You talking about Lamar? Definitely, he's got a quarterback that people want to play with. But you know what I'm going to talk about. You know where I'm about to go already.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to develop anymore under a certain man named Greg Roman.
You still mad?
He's not
I
going
think
to develop under Greg Roman.
I think outside of Baltimore, you may be the one person who's like feel the same way Baltimore Ravens fans feel.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're not going to develop outside with Greg Roman. That passing offense is not going to develop. Y'all are going to continue to run the football. You're going to continue to throw it to the tight ends a whole bunch, just like Colin Kaepernick throwed it to Michael Crabtree at wide receiver and throwed it to Vernon Davis at tight end and Delaney Walker.
And
Exact
people
same thing.
forget Randy Moss was on the team.
Yeah, and didn't even use him. And
Yeah.
didn't even use
And
him.
it's funny because I'm
Used him to block used him to block and through a slant pattern to him every now and then. And I'm like, what are we doing? We've got a speed merchant and we're not even using him. But
during the
that's neither
Super
here nor
Bowl.
there.
Yeah, during the getting ready for that Super Bowl, people was talking about like, man, we got to think about Randy Moss. We got to keep on Randy Moss. He's still Randy Moss. But thank you. But it's like, all right, we'll get you back. Here you go. Man,
Hey, and then I'll say this though. One guy that potentially look for to potentially get shopped this offseason is a guy you don't want to come to Baltimore, I don't think. And you know what I'm talking about at wide receiver
number 19. Number
for the
19.
Cleveland Browns.
Oh, that's the what you talking about? OBJ?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. I think he's misunderstood. I don't want number 19 from Pittsburgh, but I think he's misunderstood. I also think as good as he is, like I believe he's talented, don't get me wrong, but I think that one catch put him in on a whole nother atmosphere and people expect like that all the time. Like I think they put him that made people think he was the greatest wide receiver in the league just from that one catch. And I say it because I had to cut the highlight and see it from so many different angles, right? But I don't think that I think he's good. I actually think he's a top tier wide receiver, but I think that right there made people think like he was much better than what he is, if that makes sense. You know,
Well, I understand definitely, and he definitely can make the spectacular catches and do whatever he can always make that happen. But he's got to make the routine catches happen all the time, and
bingo,
that's where sometimes he falters.
bingo. I want to talk about this, and I know you just had the shirt on, man. Chad Wheeler. We're gonna call him out because there's no way that we two black men find acceptable what he did. I know anybody who I've been blessed to know you for almost 2.5, 3 years via these social webs, and we've been doing content together for about a year now. there's no way that um what he did was acceptable. And it's our responsibility to talk about it because this needs to be addressed. I'm not satisfied with anything, and unless something's been changed over the past 24 hours, but I haven't seen nothing where they are talking about this man will be suspended indefinitely from the NFL. You know, there's times when stuff like this happens, they'll say, "Oh, they're suspended until or while we do the investigation." You know, for all intents and purposes, even though there's clear evidence and there's messages and whatnot, they haven't even said that we're going to do a fair investigation, and until then, we're going to suspend him. That's what I have a problem with. You feel me? So, what do
Well, I
you think?
understand. Sorry, I was moving around, but
Go ahead, take it away.
oh, what I think is, I mean, honestly, it was so severely frustrating to see the foolishness that happened in terms of the case never even being talked about until he was arrested on Monday. We still haven't seen his mugshot like they have put out Antonio Brown and plenty of countless other players in the NFL, black
Mhm.
players at that.
Yep.
Then then you see what happened. Then you hear the whole story, and then he comes on talking about and I'm not trying to no offense to anybody that has any type of you know mental things going on or medicine they have to take for anything, whatever. No offense to anybody at all. But then he comes on and says about um, you know, well, I was off my medicine and this is what happened. I had a manic episode or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get all that, but you got to take responsibility for what you did, man. You drugged that woman. You almost choked that woman out, and
Mhm.
then you act surprised that she survived it and said it all calm while you was eating your dinner. Who does
Exactly.
that? Nobody does that, and he should never play in the NFL again. The Seahawks dragged their feet a little bit, which I was wrong when I told you he wasn't a member of the team. He was a member of the team. They finally said something
Okay.
and cut him. Then, of course, Roger Goodell hasn't said a peep about it.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's frustrating. I'm like, look, if this was Antonio Brown or any other people, and I understand that they have had their transgressions in the past as well. Kareem Hunt didn't have any transgressions before what happened to him, and you saw what happened to him either. But Antonio Brown, I kind of get that when he had a lot of stuff going on in his past, yada yada. But I think this guy deserves that same type of treatment because I know Antonio Brown and Kareem Hunt's pictures were splattered everywhere and it
Mhm.
was nonstop news. But then you have this happen and it's almost like they go into protection mode for this guy. Come on now. I mean, is he really worth all that? Is he really worth all that? And did you see what he did to that woman? I really would have loved to have gassed my car up and taken a ride to Seattle.
Yeah, and the thing is, I have an issue with any man, black or white or any other nationality, who does that. You know what I mean? Um when the situation with Ray Rice happened, I was younger. I one didn't want to believe that anything was worse than the first video that was released. After the second one, I was, disappointed. I used it as an opportunity to talk to my son about it. He was at the age where he was starting to learn football and learn players' names, and Ray Rice was the first player, or maybe one amongst the first players' names he was learning. Right. The thing about with him, you did see him go through. I don't want to say the motions, because, and I'm not gonna say therapy, but you saw him being accountable and making moves to be better. I didn't see that with Tyreek Hill, to be honest with you. Um, Not even sure saw it with Adrian Peterson, even was with a child. Even though in that situation you saw like it was a conversation between him and the child's mother, it got out, whatever. At the end of the day, none of these guys, what they did was right. But to see the lack of coverage, that's an issue. And I'm calling out Ryan Clark when he was tweeting somebody and said, "Who is Chad Wheeler?" At the most, this is going to be a lower third on the screen in the ticker, and we'll continue with other news stories. That's a problem. I don't care who it is. The
Right.
fact is, at the end of the day, the fact is a woman was beat down and within an inch of her life. And whether it's the starting player, starting quarterback, or the last member of the practice squad, or even a member of the janitorial team for a professional team, this needs to be addressed because there needs to be a message sent that you cannot do this and get away with it. And that's where I had the
Right.
issue with, like we said, the coverage. Brian A. Lyons said Kareem Hunt and Ray Rice got the boot. I still argue to this day the only reason why Ray Rice didn't come back, one, because there was video, and two, because at the simple fact that in everybody's mind they forgot that he was actually hurt, but their mind, his last game he was bad, right? But then nobody wanted that nightmare. But even if that, you take away all that, the fact is there needs to be a stronger policy. I believe his name was Josh Brown, whose wife was complaining, the
Yes.
kicker for the Giants. You know, again,
Yes, that's correct.
nothing being done, and that's the problem with the National Football League and everything. You know, these players should be held accountable, and Chad Wheeler needs to be held accountable. I saw Des Bryant said he can't wait to see him when he see him, it's on site. Um, and I ain't gonna say we don't need the violence, but we do need to see him. Uh, he said Ryan Clark was saying it as nobody will care because you didn't know who he was until the incident. You know, um, at the end of the day, they
Right.
got to stop covering this stuff up, and that's an issue. And we need more players to be vocal about it. We need to see his former teammates call him out. That's why in my tweet at the time I thought they were still on the same team. I said, "Okay, where's Russell Wilson? He's the good guy. He's the family man. We'd see that. Call him out. Where is everybody? And that's what
Yeah.
my issue
They,
is, man.
yeah, they're pretty silent. I will say that. You could have heard. You could have heard anything at that point.
Hmm.
It was like the dead of night over there in Seattle, basically.
Absolutely.
It's frustrating, man. You don't put your hands on women.
Nope.
I don't. I understand. The only. And I'm not trying to get into technicalities or anything like that. You know, she wasn't trying to kill him or shoot him or anything like that. He basically was just trying to get her to bow to him.
Hmm.
Bow to him. What kind of crazy mess is that?
Hmm.
I've never heard of somebody flipping out or wanting to get somebody to bow to them. And while I see Brian's comment about hope Wheeler gets the help because mental health is real. Mental health definitely is real, but also he has to address those things that happen too. Even though he does have mental health issues, he still has to address those issues that happened as well. And that's unacceptable. And putting his hands on her and almost choking her within his life. You can't necessarily blame all of that on mental health issues as well.
Well, at the end of the day, he needs to be in jail. I don't like the fact that he got
Right.
on bail. you know, um, I've been fortunate enough not to have to deal with mental health. Personally, I mean, I'm saying, from a first person standpoint, so I can't speak on that part, right? I've never even been one to black out, so I can't speak on that point. But there should be a protocol. Okay, he needs to be in jail, and if he needs to be taken to a mental health facility, a mental health specialist, or ensure that he should get his medicine, fine. But he needs to be away from people because there has
Right.
to be a consequence.
Right. And at this point, it doesn't seem like there is one. It seems
Mm.
like they're trying to explain why he acted that way instead of him take ownership of what happened.
And the NFL needs to pay. Quite frankly, NFL somebody needs to pay for her. Right. And guarantee if there was some place, right, we saw a movement with social injustices, right? if there was a movement that forced teams and player athletes, right, or force athletes and teams to be also share the cost to have to pay for their victims' treatment and their mental health and rehab, I bet you they would address it more. Or they would get those
Yep.
players off the team, because when you start hitting them in their pockets, then there's a problem.
Well, you got their attention at that point.
hmm You know, so that's what needs to happen. And like Brian said, this stuff don't happen overnight. It wasn't the first time
Right.
it happened. That
Exactly.
was the thing. Like, you seen Baby Boy,
Yep.
so that scene when Tyrese, hit was Jody hits Yvette, and he like lose like, oh my goodness, I just did this. And for me, when I saw the Ray Rice situation, like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, he probably did this before. I don't know, but
Hmm.
that was the scary part. So I just hope that the NFL, like I said, they got a lot of cleaning up to do. We got a long ways to go in this country, but especially when it comes to the treatment of black women. Shout out to Ted Hicks watching the Main Event Sports Show. Brian H. Waters here. Got my bro Mike Patton on here as we talk about everything that's going on. So on a
Yeah.
little
And
on a lighter note, did you see the Lakers and Celtics game?
yeah, I saw that, and I noticed the people that were talking about Anthony Davis having moments and what's wrong with Anthony Davis really didn't say much tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers been on a long road trip, and at the end of the day, it's a
Hmm.
difference when you traveling, right? Now, the bubble, they had a chance to get settled in, and we know all the stuff that like Paul George talked about, the mental health of the bubble, right? Thanks, Ted, for the stay safe award. I really appreciate that. There's so much that goes into traveling, and like tonight, if there were fans there, they probably would have lost. Um, you know,
Oh,
I
right.
I hope, what was it, Marcus Smart went down. It might be the inevitable Achilles. I hope not, but that'll be a big blow to the team. But shout out to the Lakers for pulling out the win. Anthony Davis said, "Look, we didn't want to get comfortable losing. They lost two straight. It looked like, man, they could really lose three straight tonight."
Yeah, I noticed one thing they did tonight as well with the rotation. They took Wesley Matthews out and put THT in there a little bit more. I
That
thought
boy's
that
a
was a pretty
baller.
interesting move. Well, he's
Yeah.
going to be a free agent baller this offseason, so that'll be interesting to see what happens as well. But it just was interesting to see the little bit of changes they did in the rotation. And I don't know if anyone noticed this, but it started happening in the bubble. But
Mhm.
now you got Kuzma as the main backup to LeBron James at small forward, as opposed to him being the backup at power forward, which I thought was a great move to begin with. He's not a power forward; he's a small forward. But
Mhm.
you know, that happened a little bit more tonight, and you actually saw Mark Gasol get a little bit more run than what he usually would, especially in the fourth quarter tonight too to finish the game. So definitely a little bit of subtle changes that Frank Vogel did in the rotation, and it ended up working out well for them.
Yeah. I just man, I really just wish that the big man stopped shooting threes. I saw Gasol. I'm like, man, I know you wide open. Come on.
he that that's
Come
part
on, man. I
that's
know,
part of
I
what he
know.
does, man. That's part of what he does. You gotta. I mean, but
Hey, what's funny?
go ahead.
Go ahead. Because every time I watch, he missing.
Well, he hits a few every now and then, but the thing is about him, he probably shoots one of them to keep people honest because what he can do outside of that is he can, pass and direct your offense from the high post and 3 point line area. So that's why I think he probably shoots one every now and then to keep people a little bit more honest to make them come out and guard him a little more. And that's the
Mhm.
case. It opens up cutting lanes for KCP and LeBron and just individual, more better individual matchups for Anthony Davis. So kind of, it's kind of a give and a take. You kind of don't want him to shoot that shot, but then you do because it kind of makes the center be honest from the other team.
Yeah, so that's a good point there. It's a good point there. You see, Damian Lillard hit the game winner, Dame time
Oh, I saw
activated.
it all right. He hit two. He hit basically two 3-pointers in the last 9 seconds, and the Bulls lost the game. I was like, man, that would have been a season sweep for the Bulls over the Portland Trailblazers because the first time they beat them in Portland and they were shorthanded. They were like had 7 or 8 players and beat them in
Mhm.
Portland.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
are a
yeah,
Bulls fan.
yeah. Yep, I am. So this was a little painful tonight, but I will say this: the Bulls actually are playing better this year than they have played in the last few years. And I don't know what Billy Donovan's doing, but it's apparently reaching some of the younger players because I've never seen Laurie Markkinen play this confidently. I mean, he's had 30. He's had two 30-point games since he came back from the Corona list. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've never seen
Yeah,
him play this confidently. And the good thing about that team is this year that I find is great is they're playing the young players and their bench is a bunch of veterans, which Danny Thompson mentioned this to me, and I really didn't pay attention to it till he tell me it. You have Thaddeus Young, Temple, you have Otto Porter, you got Valentine coming off the bench, Thomas Satoransky. You got all those vets coming in off the bench, and you got all the young guys playing. So, which I
mhm.
thought was, or starting, which I think is kind of a great balance because you have guys that have been playing the game for a while coming in off your bench, and that actually they can help maintain the game, if not take over the game because they're a little bit better than what a lot of second units are in the NBA.
Yeah, that's true. Um, before we get out of here, you watching the NFL celebration tomorrow?
Nope, nope.
You're
I can
not
tell
just
you now, I'm not watching it.
hey,
I
it's
watched a little bit of the verses this week, though. I did watch
okay.
a little bit of the verses. I didn't get to watch the hometown kid, Jalen Ramsey. I didn't get to watch his, but I'll probably go back and try to watch it somewhere. But nah, not watching tomorrow. Probably gonna be writing and I don't know, getting something together.
Got you. Yeah, I wish they would. I like the Pro Bowl. I understand why they don't do it, but I liked it better after the Super Bowl, just because you had the opportunity to see like the Super Bowl players play there and kind of little talk a little trash. But I
Yeah.
get it. It's all they trying to hurry up and get it over with. Real quick, before you got anything that people need to check out? Let the people know before we get out of here.
Well, I got another show coming. Let's see. Got another show coming this Thursday. Not going to giving away who my guest is just yet, but people will find that out about Wednesday. Who my
Okay.
guest is going to be on the show, and I do have another one lined up after the Super Bowl as well. And let's. All I can say is we going big. We going big
Okay.
with the guests
All right.
on the show,
Definitely
and
looking
of
forward
course
to it.
and also, of course, it's Black History Month coming up, and I have written a few articles for that as well for a local paper here in Nashville. So that'll be probably out sometime during Black History Month.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to Mike's show right here on Haps TV. You can catch it when he posts it and make sure that you go ahead, when you watch, you get some coins, share it with them. It's same here. Feel free donate to the Main Event Status Sports Show. Make sure you catch me on all social media platforms at Brian H. Waters. I'm ready. My daughter's birthday is in 15 minutes, even though she sleeps, so I'm not waking her up because then she'll be up. And then tomorrow's also the Royal Rumble. So y'all can check me out at Wrestling Realm, where I just did a show earlier with my boy Blake talking about it. And I'll be tweeting it tomorrow for sure. So until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. Goodbye and good night.